welcome to Steph Study Stars Episode 1 podcast, Story Time. Failed Ontario Education System. That's right. That's the topic of discussion today. Let's dive in. Here it is. Failed education system. The Ontario failed education system. The system over the last 15 years has quickly changed, and not for the better. From kindergarten to grade 8, grade 9 to 12, there's always been changes happening, but the problem hasn't been fixed. And what is the problem? What is the unanswered question that we have? Is it classroom sizes? Is it a failed curriculum? Is it the school boards not putting enough effort into the resources provided by the Ontario government? What is it? The answer to all of it is questionable. Families always ask me, do you think it's the teachers that are not being trained properly? And I always tell them, teachers are doing the best that they can. Every day that they go in there, they plan, they organize, and they support their students to the best of their abilities based on the resources that are being given by the school system. So we can't always say, well, maybe it's the teacher or maybe it's the school. Yes, it can totally be factors. But I always tell families, let's dive deep a little bit further into who created this curriculum, who created these programs for children. How do the school boards facilitate these programs and curriculums? What resources are being provided? That's the unanswered question that we continuously have today. And the Ontario system tends to go around the questions about giving support to children who need it, allowing children for proper accommodations, changing the curriculum by going back to the basics of learning. The basics, we've heard that recently, right? With regards to our new kindergarten program that was just released. I've taken a look at it, and yeah, there has not been any changes to it. Going back to the basics is something that I'm very strong about. Why? Because the basics are what gets our children to where they need to be. And with all of this, I'm going to share a little story about me and how the system failed me. Let's dive in. Here's my story. How the Ontario education system failed me. As a young child in elementary school, I didn't find school easy. It was tough for me. I had tutors and support systems throughout my educational journey. But there was only one teacher who I can tell you in my primary years that actually took the extra mile to tell my parents and me, we need to help Steph just a little bit more. And over the years that went by, that one teacher always reminded me of how important it was to also self-advocate for myself. Now, many of you might think, how is it possible that somebody who runs a company with regards to education struggled in school? And that's why I'm sharing this story with all of you and for all of our children who are watching it today. I'm letting you all know that no matter what struggles you may have when it comes to your learning, developing, and of course your confidence, you can do it. I am someone who is diagnosed with a minor learning disability. Processing deficiency, meaning certain things like reading, writing, and mathematics, what I found difficult, the processing of the information was not easy for me. And over the years went by, elementary school to high school, you would think once you hit high school that the teachers and the core resource and accommodations that were put into play would be so helpful, right? Well, wrong. I had to self-advocate for myself daily. Every day that went by, every class that I went to, every semester, I had to outline to them what my accommodations were, how I needed the support system. And I had 3 teachers in high school who still, to this day, I am so blessed that I was able to be a part of their class and they were my teachers because they actually helped advocate for me. And not just within my own classroom, but to advocate for me in the core resource department, to my core resource teacher. And I had to tell my teachers that I'm not getting the support that I'm entitled to. My individual education plan that is put into place for me is supposed to follow me as I go to each class. I'm allowed to take any classes I want. Just because I have an IEP doesn't mean I shouldn't be in academic courses. I should be able to take whatever I can. And I had a teacher tell me, well, you shouldn't be in my class then if you have an IEP. What does that say about the system? That we're categorizing children into different bubbles that relate to their learning style. That they don't deserve the academics like everyone else. Well, I always say, and I'll say it again, every child learns differently and at their own pace. And what I did is I made sure that my teachers knew what my individual education plan was. My core resource teacher knew what my individual education plan was, and you would think that they would know that given their qualifications in that area. And I made sure that everything that I needed to do from grade 9 to grade 12 to get me into post-secondary was done. And I made sure that I had the teacher be on my side when it came to additional time, breaking down the information for me, and giving me resources that are going to help me strive in that area. And out of those 3 teachers, I had one who inspired me to go into geography. I had another one who actually took the time during exam time to come into the core resource room while I was doing my exam and actually break down the math questions for me. He was amazing. And the 3rd teacher who I had, where I was in a course where her work was hard. It was challenging, but for whatever reason, the way she taught and the way she broke it down for me, I did amazing. And I'm honored to be able to have had those teachers in my life. As I moved forward into post-secondary, I graduated from York University. I realized that post-secondary education is great. There's wonderful resources available, but only if you advocate for yourself. We have to remember that places may say different support systems, we're going to have the resources available to help you. Well, I didn't have that at York. I had it, but again, I had to self-advocate for myself. I had to go to my professors. I had to go to my teacher assistants. I had to go to the dean to let them know that I'm not being provided the resources that I'm entitled to based on my accommodations that I set into place when I started at your school. And over my years of education, it didn't go the way I wanted. But that's where it brought me here today, running my company, Steph Study Stars. And why is that? Because I had support from my family, from my parents. I had support from wonderful educators in high school. And of course, I had the confidence in myself to say, even though things might be challenging, I will do it. I will make it happen. And look, here I am. And many of you might think, how is she running a company if she has a learning disability? How is that possible? Well, look where I am. Anything is possible. And to every child who's watching this, remember, like I always say, just because something might be challenging does not mean you can't accomplish it. We all can, and we all deserve to get to where we want to be, as long as we have the support and the guidance from people around us. And that's why I'm here today to shed that light on all of our children and families watching. You all deserve a chance to have the education and the pathway that you deserve. And that all comes from many different resources and support systems like us who are here to help. My story is unique, and remember, I did it, and so can you. My beliefs in the education system. Now, this might be something that you may not agree with, and that's okay. I'm here sharing my beliefs and how I feel. And I want to remind you all that this is based on my own experiences. What I went through during my educational journey and working as an educator, working with throughout a variety of different subjects and grade levels. And I'm here today to share with you that I don't believe the Ontario system is teaching our children the right way. And what I mean by that is our curriculum, our resources, materials, and overall training for our educators is not good enough because our children are struggling. Over the years, I've worked in the public and the private sector, and by running my company as a private education company, I always find that it's the same story I'm seeing and hearing with children. Reading, writing, mathematics. The 3 core subject areas that have never been changed other than making it more complicated for educators to teach and for children to learn. So I always tell families, we are here to change that concept. We're not homework help. We don't provide, here, let's go over your math work today. No, we don't do that. We go back to the basics of learning based on the programs that I've created and recreated over the years that will work for your child's learning style. Same goes for our homeschooling program, pre-K to grade 8. I looked back at the Ontario curriculum 20, 30 years ago when we were actually learning, and I revamped it to our own specific programs and curriculums that work for every child. If your child deserves to have one-on-one education, well, why shouldn't it be customized? Now, children go to school 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 10 months. And over the years, I've noticed that there hasn't been any learning happening. Class sizes are too big, children are not staying focused, and there's a lot of things that need to be changed within the curriculum, other than making it more complicated and confusing. But our children are not being able to be provided the support that they need. And I always let families know that at Steph Study Stars, we do the opposite. I don't believe in a child going to school for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week to learn. I believe children need 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 5 days a week at most, depending on the grade, to learn. And the rest of the time should be spent being a child. And I think that's something that is going to be very questionable for some of our viewers. But if we start to really open up our eyes to what the system has taught for our children today, is your child learning? Are you seeing developmental changes in their academics? Are they able to read fluently by grade 3? Are they able to do simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, division by grade 6? Is your child able to comprehend and write proper sentence structure, grammar, punctuation, spelling by grade 8? I'll leave those questions for you to answer. But in my experience, the answer is no. And it's sad to say that that's where we have been brought to now over all the years that we've all been in school as adults and parents and educators. Times are changing and it's not changing for the better. And I feel that children need to learn to self-advocate for themselves as well. If they're not understanding something, they need to let their teacher know and their parents know, I'm just not getting it, and not be afraid to do that. The system continuously promotes supporting children with their mindful health, helping them through any physical or social limitations. I'm not seeing that. in the system. I'm seeing more children being felt that they're not being supported by their teachers, by the principals. I've seen children feel that they don't want to go to school because they're afraid of being bullied, by being questioned. And I'm seeing a lot of children at young ages not even feeling happy to experience what school is all about. And that tells me something. That is the system not giving the support that the children need, not allowing for the children to learn based on their learning style. And I know I might be sounding like, well, you're just repeating yourself, but I think that's what we need to do. We have to repeat ourselves. We have to let others know that the only way to help is by backtracking, by making a change and saying, you know what, as a parent, as a student, I need to get additional resources and support to help. And that's why I'm here sharing this with all of you, because we do that at Steph Study Stars. And I don't limit what children should or shouldn't learn. If they're excelling, well, then they should be excelling. If they need additional support, well, then they deserve to have additional support. Not by feeling that they don't deserve either one of those. And that's something that I feel needs to be talked about more, and I will always be touching on that. But remember, your child deserves the best education, confidence, and social emotional well-being that they deserve. And I just don't think the system right now is providing that. But I'll leave that for you to answer. Here it is, the recap to our discussion. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to do, quite the opposite. I'm here to share with you how we need to open up our eyes just a little bit, if you haven't done so already, because I know many of you who are watching have. I'm here to make you understand and realize that your child is not gaining any support within the system. The reason why your child is 2 to 3 years behind is because of the curriculum, the resources, the materials. There has not been a change, and there won't be. Each and every day that goes by, children within our kindergarten, primary, junior, intermediate, and even high school are struggling each day. And you have to stop and think for a minute. When your child comes home from school, are they happy about their day? Are they excited to share? Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, look what I learned. Or do they just say, how was your day? It was fine. I didn't really learn anything. I don't even know what I'm learning. And I don't really understand it. To me, that's a red flag, no matter what grade. That makes me think for an extra minute or two, what is happening each and every day in that classroom. And again, as an educator myself, I've seen it firsthand. There's only so much educators can do in that time frame with regards to the curriculum, resources, and materials that are being provided to them. As parents, we have to stop and think and see, okay, how can we make that change for our child if they're showing no interest in learning, or they're not grasping or understanding any of the information that's being taught? And as educators, we have to stop and think, okay, well, in our classroom of students, are they actually learning what we're teaching them? And as students, are you learning? Are you coming home and be like, oh, I understand everything. This has been great. Or actually, it's been really hard for me. So we have to sit back and understand, why is this happening? And it's happening for the reasons we talked about today. No changes being made, curriculum staying the same and more difficult for learning, and of course, resources, materials, and support systems that are not being provided within the system. Now you might say, Steph, but they just changed the kindergarten curriculum. How exciting is that? They actually revamped it to make it better in the last 10 years. I said, oh, hey, yeah, I took a look at it. And I'm a strong advocate when it comes to kindergarten. And I'll share with you here. There isn't much. There isn't much. Kindergarten 2026, so in 10 years, we take a look. overall glance, it's still play-based learning, which I don't agree with because it doesn't work. They made some changes with their wording when it came to what the curriculum regards to math and literacy. Problem solving, that's something that they're, reflecting on, which they don't implement. And then this is my favorite, self-regulation and well-being. Well, that's the key component. If a child is not being able to self-regulate their own emotions, their feelings, they're feeling overwhelmed, and then following a routine and structure, there's not changes that are going to be implemented. It's just there. It's there for the parents and educators to just see and observe. And I really believe that if you go back to the basics and fundamentals of learning, primarily focusing on things like this, self-regulation and well-being, everything else will come easy with support and guidance, of course. And I always say that if we go back to the basics, we take a moment to see how every child learns, because not everybody learns the same. And we develop those skills from the early ages, kindergarten, all the way to higher elementary and high school. You will start to see a change within your child's learning. But it starts with going to the basics. And we have to focus on the child's mind, body, and soul. What is their mind thinking each day when they go to school? Do they feel happy? Do they feel confident? Are they worried? Are they scared? Is their body feeling overwhelmed? Are they not sure of how to ask questions and advocate for themselves? Or are they good to go and they feel great? And when it comes to their sole purpose, do they know what they want to do when they go to school? Do they know what their goals are going to be each day that comes by, each week, each year, and overall what their pathway is? We have to use those skills each day for our students. And as parents, you can see that that change is being made for the better or for worse. As educators, we see it every day, how children are not developing the way that we would hope. And as students, do you see it? Especially one of our older students that may be watching. Do you notice that maybe you're not able to understand what's being taught to you, or feel, I'm not too sure how to ask that question for clarification, or maybe they might be scared to, because there's so much going on within the classroom environment. Overall, I want you to understand, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You all have a right to what you feel is best for you, your child, your family, and what you want for them. I just want everyone to understand that if we take a moment and look back at what was taught years ago to where we are today, we were learning then. We're not learning now. And at Steph Study Stars, I've done the opposite. I've gone back. I've taken a look at the curriculum when I was in school and years before. And I revamped everything within our homeschooling program and for our tutoring support, where our curriculum focuses on the fundamentals and basics of learning. And that's what I'm going to constantly be here talking about. Curriculum, changes, environment, our mind, body, and soul, sole purpose of learning. All of that's going to be discussed each and every week. But I want you all to understand that making the choice for your child is up to you. I just want everyone to understand that there are changes that can be made for the better. And that's why I'm here sharing my beliefs with an old school attitude.